The woman pope. It's said the Vatican once possessed a marble throne with an opening in its seat. During papal inaugurations, a young cardinal had an unusual assignment, to reach beneath the chair and confirm the newly elected pope's biological sex. Only after verifying this would he announce, "Testiculos habet iti bene pundans," he has testicles, and they hang well. Why such a strange ritual? According to some, it was meant to ensure that a particular mistake would never be repeated. This is the tale of Pope Joan, a woman who, as legend has it, disguised herself as a man, ascended through church hierarchy, and ultimately occupied the chair of St. Peter. Though the legend surfaces in 13th century texts, it places her life in the 9th century. These accounts describe an English intellectual named Johannes Anglicus, said to have studied in Athens and won Rome's admiration with quiet command and brilliance. Few realized that under the clerical robes and tonsure was a woman named Joan. Her rise was exceptional. She earned the trust of powerful men and steadily climbed through the church ranks. Eventually, the cardinals unknowingly chose her as pope. For a time, she governed skillfully and without suspicion. But the charade unraveled. In one version of the story, while leading a papal procession near the church of San Clemente, Joan collapsed and gave birth in the street. Some say the crowd, feeling betrayed, lashed out violently against her and the newborn. Others claim she was discreetly removed, her name scrubbed from official history. The Vatican denies the episode entirely. No formal records admit to a woman having held the papacy. And yet, elusive and debated traces persist. For centuries, papal processions detoured around that exact street, nicknamed the Shunned Way. In Siena Cathedral, a bust once labeled John VIII female reportedly stood alongside other pontiffs until the 1600s, when it was quietly renamed Pope Zachary. Some papal timelines also contain an unexplained 2-year gap between the papacies of Benedict III and Nicholas I. Several medieval historians, including Martin of Opava, writing in the 13th century, listed a Pope Joan. In recent decades, archaeologists uncovered coins from that ambiguous period, some of which feature unique markings that scholars argue may be Joan's. Then there's the sedia stercoraria, the throne with the hole. The Church insists it was symbolic of humility, but others argue it was a tool to verify a pope's masculinity, implemented in response to Joan's deception. She may live on in other forms. Early tarot decks included a card called La Papesse, the Popess, a crowned woman holding an open book. Official records claim Pope Joan never lived. But if that's true, then why does the throne exist? Why was a statue renamed, a street avoided, coins altered? Even today, visitors quietly place flowers at a small shrine near the Colosseum. Some bring rosaries. Others bring questions. The last pope. In 2025, just weeks after Pope Francis's death and the unexpected selection of his successor, an ancient manuscript resurfaced in the public eye. It claimed to foretell the identities of every pope and the apocalypse. Known as the Prophecy of the Popes, the document consists of 112 short Latin phrases, each said to correspond with a future pontiff. Though attributed to the 12th century Irish bishop St. Malachy, it wasn't published until 1595 by a Benedictine monk named Arnold Wyon. The list begins with Celestine II in 1143 and ends with a chilling forecast, a final pope, Peter the Roman, who will lead the church through tribulation, followed by the destruction of Rome and the arrival of a fearsome judge. A rare solar eclipse will graze Rome on August 2, 2027. Some believe that's the date the prophecy points to, the end. For centuries, scholars dismissed the text as a clever fake, likely intended to sway a late 16th century papal election. Its accuracy dwindles after 1590, suggesting it may have been written around that time, not by Malachy at all. Yet faith in the prophecy surged after the 1978 election of John Paul II. His corresponding motto, the Labor Solis, from the labor of the sun, seemed eerie. He was born during a solar eclipse in 1920 and died during another in 2005. The next phrase, Gloria Olivi, Glory of the Olive, was linked to Benedict XVI, whose chosen name evoked the olive tan branch of the Benedictines. Then came Francis. But for him, the prophecy offers no new motto, only the final line remains, describing Peter the Roman, the shepherd of suffering. For years, many speculated that Francis himself might be that figure, the first Jesuit pope, a bishop of Rome, and the child of Italian immigrants. Even his namesake, Saint Francis of Assisi, was born Giovanni di Pietro, literally John, son of Peter. The symbolism seemed perfect. But Francis passed away in 2025 and the world remained. Some argue the prophecy allows no new pontiffs between Gloria Olivi and Peter the Roman. Others believe the final pope has now arrived. On May 8, 2025, the cardinals elected Pope Leo XIV. For believers, he could be the final name. Searches for the prophecy have skyrocketed. Myth, or something more? The trial of the corpse. When Pope Formosis's body washed ashore, locals claimed it worked miracles. But just months earlier, he had been at the center of one of history's most macabre trials. In 897, Pope Stephen VI ordered his deceased predecessor exhumed. Formosus had been dead for 7 months. His decaying remains were dressed in sacred robes, propped on a throne in St. John Lateran, and put on trial. This event is known as the Cadaver Synod. Acting as prosecutor and judge, Stephen had a deacon speak on behalf of the corpse. Some reports claim the deacon imitated Formosus's voice, like a puppet show. The charges: unlawfully claiming the papacy, breaking canon law, and perjury. The outcome was predetermined, but it wasn't just lunacy, it was politics. Before his death, Formosus had supported Arnulf of Carinthia in his campaign for the Holy Roman Empire. This placed him at odds with the powerful Spolitan faction and their candidate, Lambert. When Stephen came to power, he allied with Lambert's camp. Some say the driving force behind the trial was Lambert's mother, Queen Adgeltrud, a fierce political operator who used Stephen to erase her enemies. Once convicted, Formosus's body was stripped of its vestments. 3 fingers, used for blessings, were severed. The body was dumped in the Tiber. But it didn't end there. His corpse reportedly surfaced again, and people began whispering of miracles. Public opinion turned. Stephen was jailed and later found strangled. Was it an angry mob, Lambert's men, his own guards? No one knows. The madness didn't end with Stephen. 2 popes later, Sergius III reinstated the charges against Formosus, only for another pontiff to nullify them. The church wavered back and forth. Meanwhile, a legend formed: all who defiled Formosus would die. Within a single year, 3 popes died under strange circumstances. One murdered in prison, another banished to a monastery, a third dead after just 20 days. The curse seemed undeniable. The Cadaver Synod remains one of the darkest episodes in Vatican history, a trial of a corpse to settle living vendettas, shadowed ever since by whispers that the dead weren't done speaking. The Red Pope. At 6 p.m. on October 26, 1958, white smoke billowed from the Sistine Chapel. Vatican radio declared, "The smoke is white, no doubt." Bells rang, crowds cheered, but no pope appeared. Then, inexplicably, the smoke darkened. Black. Panic spread. White smoke signals a papal election, black means no decision. The Vatican blamed a faulty stove, but some believe a pope was elected and silenced. According to theory, Cardinal Giuseppe Siri, a staunch anti-communist, was chosen and took the name Gregory XVII. But Soviet agents, fearing his hardline stance, allegedly threatened nuclear war if he was confirmed. The cardinals, under pressure, elected John Xi instead. Strange details fuel the claim. Cardinal Spellman emerged pale-faced. John Xi kept the cardinal sequestered an extra day. Siri later refused to discuss it. Declassified U.S. memos titled John XXII and Cardinal Siri remain heavily redacted. Supporters insist Siri lived as the true pope in exile, dubbed Il Paparazzo, the Red Pope, for the crimson mozzetta he wore. Skeptics call it Cold War fiction, yet the mystery endures. The Resigned Pope. When workers opened Pope Celestine V's tomb in 1630, they found a hole in his skull, square, clean, deliberate. Officially, he died in captivity. But why imprison an 86-year-old hermit? Born Pietro Angelirio in 1209, Celestine was a humble Benedictine monk who retreated to the Abruzzo Mountains to pray in solitude. His piety drew followers, forming the Celestine order. Yet Pietro had no interest in leadership. By 1292, the church had been without a pope for 2 years. Deadlocked in Perugia, the cardinals couldn't agree. Frustrated, Pietro sent them a letter warning that divine wrath would fall upon them for the delay. They took it as a divine sign. Cardinal Latino Malabranca declared him pope. A delegation found Pietro in his mountain cave and delivered the news. Reluctantly, he accepted, becoming Celestine V at age 85. He sought to return the church to early Christian values, humility, simplicity, devotion. But he was politically unprepared. King Charles II of Naples soon manipulated him. After 5 months, Celestine issued a decree permitting papal resignation, then used it. His successor, Boniface VIII, feared Celestine might become a rival figurehead. Rather than release him, Boniface had him locked in a stone cell. Celestine died there. Forensics suggest the skull injury came post-mortem, but suspicions of foul play persist. Some claim a radiant cross appeared above his prison cell the night he died. For a man who sought silence, Celestine's voice echoes through history.